Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tamuna Papava, and today I'd like to tell you about some of the lessons that I learned at Amazon. And hopefully those will resonate with you. I think I'm supposed to stand in this circle, so if I remember that at some point, I might be walking around. So today I'd like to tell you about some of those lessons that I learned while working at Amazon. But before I say that, I have to confess, this stage is awesome. I wanted to be an actress at some point in my life. So kudos to the touch team who made it happen. Basically, I'm talking about Amazon, so not an actress, but still cool. So lessons learned. Let me first start with who am I? That is me, and that is one of the things that I love doing, or I loved doing. Also me. This is, on the left is the picture of me, somewhere up there, on going up to one of the 3 top peaks in Georgia, which was the beautiful sunrise I've ever seen. And that is a picture of myself in tears, oxygen deprived, et cetera, at 5,054 meters. So that is a bit about what I love doing, and spend your summer in Georgia. Now, let me tell you about my journey. It all started in my head with the Future Leaders Exchange Program, which is Flex, for those of you who are Flexers out there. It was the first international experience that I gained, and it was what shaped my future in a number of ways. Then I did my university bachelor's degree here in Georgia at Gal, and started working in 2011 up to 2015 at TBSD Consulting. So I did management consulting for about 4.5 years, learned a ton, and then I decided there was enough of me telling people what to do, and I wanted to do it. So I thought the best way to get that happen, to make that happen, was to go get an MBA, Master of Business Administration. Sounds about right. I applied for the Fulbright program, and thanks to Fulbright and Bank of Georgia, I made it to Georgetown to get my MBA. And my first role at Amazon, even when I was in Georgetown, to be honest, I didn't really think I would actually end up working for Amazon. But I did, and the first role was at Amazon Logistics as an MBA intern in the summer of 2016. That was in Seattle. Then I did my first full-time job in customer service. And then finally, right now, I work in Amazon Devices in London. So what do I do? This is, in a nutshell, one picture, what I do. It's also these and these. So basically, I work in Amazon Devices. And a lot of you, I'm sure, know about Amazon, and the first thing that comes to your mind is that we are an online retailer. But that is just one part of what we do. We do a bunch of other things. For example, we fly drones, or try to, so they land in your backyard and we deliver shipments to you that way. We also work in cloud computing, for those of you who have heard or used even. I know someone in this room has used Amazon Web Services. Now, what do I do? I'm in what I think is the funnest place to be at Amazon. It's the devices business. So for those of you who don't know, we manufacture devices. I am in the sales and marketing organization of that. I work in Amazon Devices EU, so assuming we haven't Brexited yet, because I live in the UK, so still Amazon Devices EU. And I do sales and marketing in the sense of working with retailers, physical retailers, who then go and sell our devices. So think yourself, if you live in London and you want to go buy an Amazon device, like a Kindle that I just showed you, you have one of 2 ways to go. You can type in amazon.co.uk and purchase a device, and most people, that's what they do. But then there are other people who want to touch it and understand how big it is and listen to it if it's the, one of our speakers. That is the channel that I work in. And in that channel, so think Best Buy in the US, think MediaMarkt in Germany, I launch new devices. That's my job. So today, I want to tell you about the culture of Amazon, what lessons I learned through that culture, and hopefully, like I said, some of those will resonate with you. First thing about Amazon culture, or where you can learn the most about Amazon culture, is if you simply type in Amazon leadership principles and you look at them. I will go in a bit more detail about Amazon leadership principles, so I won't spend time on that right now. And I do want to call out a few more things about our culture at Amazon. Customer obsession, that is the first leadership principle. What I mean by that is literally if you work for Amazon, if you work for Amazon and you want to bring a new idea to life, what is it that you do? You write a document, literally a Word document, and you demonstrate how it's going to help your customer. So you always start from the customer and work backwards. Second, we do documents, not slides, ever, except when you're in a conference on stage. The reason for doing documents is because you can put all the information in writing, all the data, and let the reader digest it at their own pace. Finally, what I love about Amazon is the no BS culture. I'll let you interpret the two letters, B and S. But it's basically getting to the point straight away. Now, leadership principles. I'll tell you about some of them, the ones that I picked because they most resonate with me. But hint, if you ever want to get a job in Amazon, what you need to do is understand the leadership principles and make sure you can demonstrate them in your resume, in your interviews, etc. This is something that we live and breathe. And when I say that, I mean we use them in everyday conversations, so much so that then we use them in personal conversations. It's literally in our DNA. The first one that I want to talk to you about today, it's ownership. I'm going to literally read it out first. Leaders are owners. They think long-term and do not sacrifice long-term value for short-term results. They act on behalf of the entire company beyond just their own team. They never, and I mean never, say that's not my job. So what does that mean? It means that people, my leaders, my own bosses and their bosses, expect us to not think in just your role. Own whatever it is you do from start to finish and even think beyond. So if you have an idea that does not really comply with what you do, your job, still make it happen. Go out and do it. I'll tell you a little story about that. About the idea of ownership, which is the first time I really realized that this was not a word written on a piece of paper, but something that people took very seriously. The first thing I owned, basically. So I had just started working for Amazon, at Amazon Logistics. First I heard logistics and I was like, ew, that sounds really, really boring. And then I realized, oh wait, I work in a company which does this thing quite well. We're very good at logistics. Then I realized that I was working on a cutting-edge product that basically a new way that Amazon was going to try and deliver its packages. Basically, my team was building, think DHL or FedEx, inside Amazon. I knew nothing, almost, about logistics until the day I stepped into the Seattle office. And yet, I was going to own something from start to finish. I was a little bit confused. And then I realized that the people that were in my team with me did not know this particular project or particular problem better than I did. So much so that I once realized I had a problem to solve. I needed to understand what would be the transportation cost of this new service that we were developing. And I just didn't know what to do. I basically grabbed a few of the best brains at Amazon in this team. I put them in one room and I was brainstorming. And one of them told me, I love what we do to interns. We give them a problem that we don't know how to solve, And we tell them, if you don't solve it in 12 weeks, you're fired. The essence of an internship is at the end of the internship, you either get a full-time offer or you don't. I was amazed by that. And I realized the day I got hired full-time, when my manager told me, he said, the reason, or one of the reasons I got hired was you didn't act like an intern. You owned it. Ownership was one of the top reasons why I got the job. Second leadership principle I'd like to talk to you about today is called bias for action. I'll also read this one. Speed matters in business. Many decisions and actions are reversible and do not need extensive study. We value calculated risk-taking. So, needless to say, I have a story about that too. But let me first give you a bit of context on why I think this matters. Imagine yourself, you work for a company that is huge, right? We are literally a $900 billion company, and yet we have this very startup mentality. So how do you do that? How do you move forward on one hand, keep moving fast, and on the other hand, you have to work in this complex, ambiguous, often, environment. And the way to do it is bias for action. I'll tell you one of the points, one of the concepts that we use while we are trying to exercise our bias for action. There's a concept of one-way doors, meaning one-way door decisions, I should clarify. Meaning, I have a decision to make. I'm going to stay in the circle. I have a decision to make. I go in this one-way door, and then there is no going back. So if something goes wrong, too late, okay? That's one kind of decisions you make. I'm going to argue that the most decisions that you and I make are actually two-way doors. What does that mean? So this is the two-way door. I walk in, I figure things out, and hopefully everything goes great. But if something does go wrong, I have the option to walk back out of that door. I'm going to argue that most decisions that we make are actually those kinds of decisions. And the reason I want to make that point is because just think about yourselves. When was this last decision, an important work decision you were making, and how long did you think, and how long did you gather all the possible data to make that decision? Did you really have to spend all that time? That, to me, is the most challenging leadership principle. And the reason why is because I used to be a good student. Trust me. And here's why I'm bringing that up. I was reading a book just 2 days ago, or 4 days ago, by Tara Moore. I'll show it on screen as well. And she talks about the idea of good student. What does that mean? Think back to your school experiences. What were we trained to do? We were trained to learn everything there was to learn about a subject, go out there and deliver results by, performing well on a test. All of that was based on everything you had just read. And maybe if you had a mathematics exam, there was a little impromptu one question of a bonus where you could show your thinking beyond what you had learned. So we're literally trained to, one, gather every possible information on a topic, and two, to comply with authority. You have to listen to your teacher. You have to do as she says. Otherwise, you know what happens. So here I found myself in Amazon, and I realized, oops, now I have to challenge the authority. Now I have to make decisions with 80% of the data, not 100%. And I'll tell you what, at least my journey on this very difficult task for me started with just becoming aware of that. Understanding I do not need 100% of the data to make a decision. That is the book. Amazing. For those of you women out there, it's fantastic, but I don't think it needs to be limited to a woman, to be honest. Playing Big by Tara Moore. Third leadership principle, and the final one I want to talk to you about today, is earn trust. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to read it. Leaders listen attentively, speak candidly, and treat others respectfully. They're vocally self-critical, even when doing so is awkward or embarrassing. Leaders do not believe their or their team's body odor smells of perfume. They benchmark themselves and their teams against the best. This, in a way, is my favorite leadership principle because I happen to be good at it. This is about how you treat people. The highlighted bit, which is obviously where I want you to look, is listen attentively, speak candidly, and treat others respectfully. You're looking at it and you're going, well, duh, aren't we all supposed to do that anyway? However, I know for one, and I'm sure you can think of times at your workplace when people fail to do that. I was given a few pieces of feedback which showed me, it rang true in my head, and I realized that is actually who I am. First of those is someone summarized my job in 3 letters. It was a written feedback, so it's all in a permanent record in Amazon. Someone said about me, my job was about being a dictator, a diplomat, and a therapist in one. Meaning, I have to tell people what to do. I have to do so in a diplomatic way so I don't, tick them off. And then finally, be a therapist, so when they have things to share about how unhappy they are about this particular problem, I just have to sit there and make them feel heard. Second piece of feedback was someone said, Tamuna has the ability to actually listen. It's like, obvious, right? But not really. Think back how often you have been in a conversation where you literally, you're making a point, you stop talking, you're supposed to be listening, but what you're really doing is coming up with the next point you're about to make. So basically missing the whole point that other person was making. So listen attentively. And finally, someone told me I had a positive, contagious approach. Well, yeah, that is basically, in my opinion, who I am. In a way, when I think about, let's say a lot of my job, I cannot control the outputs. I can only control the inputs. So the way I treat that is I focus on those inputs. I make sure that I do the best possible job I can in those inputs. And then if the outputs don't turn out the way I wanted them to, oh well, I tried my best. So what could you get out of this presentation? I'd say 3 things. First, ownership. Be a doer. That is how Amazon, in my opinion, succeeded, because we are very good at hiring a bunch of doers. If you have an idea, it's beyond your job, go out and do it. They will welcome it as long as they hear it. And if you're a manager, let them do it. Let them make it happen. Second, bias for action. Take calculated risks. Get out of that good student syndrome or persona that you have, a lot of you, I'm sure, will have in your heads. And finally, earn trust. The how matters. When I say the how, I mean, at work we often talk about the what, meaning how smart someone is and how much experience they have. And then the how. So how do you deliver those smart messages? How do you treat your colleague who's new and doesn't know a given topic? How are you going to deliver that message? The how matters. I'll leave you with a couple of words of simple wisdom that one of the senior leaders on my team once told me. I had just started in Amazon, and I asked him, well, you have a room full of Amazonians. What is it that you'd like to tell us? And guess what he said? Solve problems. So my dear audience, go out and solve some problems.